Welcome to Talk Purpose and Truth with Eden and Kim, shifting you into higher consciousness, the show that elevates, uplifts, and encourages listeners to grow, heal, awaken, and evolve. Eden and Kim include bold topics, special interviews with inspiring guests, intuitive readings, channeled messages from beyond, including celebrities, hot topics to expand your awareness, and time for questions from the audience. Tune in for unprecedented truth, authenticity, on-purpose discussions, and magical moments.
Velez-Mitchell. She is the founder and content editor of Jane Unchained, a multi-platform social media news outlet that produces original video content on animal rights and the vegan compassionate lifestyle. She has won 4 Genesis Awards from the Humane Society of the U.S. for her reporting on animal issues. Woohoo! Veg News named her Maven of the Year in 2010, and in 2013, Mercy for Animals awarded her their Compassionate Leadership Award. She's also been honored for fighting animal abuse by the Animal Legal Defense Fund. In 2015, Jane received the Nancy Alexander Award at PETA's 35th anniversary. For 6 years, she hosted her own show on the CNN Headline News, where she ran a weekly segment on animal issues. She did numerous stories on animal issues championed by celebrities on WB telepicture show Celebrity Justice. I remember that.
I do too.
And she was a court reporter anchor at KCAL TV in LA and WCBS TV in New York, and winners of an LA and a New York Emmy for her reporting. So many awesome, amazing things that are very inspiring. She's the author of 4 books. A couple of them, her 2014 nonfiction New York Times bestseller, Exposed: The Secret Life of Jodi Arias, offers a detailed psychological analysis of a salacious trial that gripped the American public. Another one was...
I remember that too. I just have to say that.
We're going to be asking about that for sure.
Yeah.
Her bestseller also is her memoir, I Want: A Journey from Addiction and Overconsumption to a Simpler, Honest Life, and many more. And she directed and produced Anita Velez Dancing Through Life, which won a Gracie Award in 2001. She lives with her partner, Donna Deniso, and 4 companion animals. One of them is one of our guests today in LA. So welcome, Jane. I think she went to take her puppy, her doggy.
Thank you.
Tell us about your doggy.
Well, yeah, a couple of updates. My ex and I are good friends, but we don't live together anymore. And so, yeah, this is Cabo San Lucas, Lucas. And he's my longest relationship ever. He's the man of the house. He is, my baby, but also he's a big grown man. And he's about 16 now, and he got sick, and then he went blind recently. And it's I've been talking to healers and talking to various people and vets, and it's hard for them to adjust, but they can adjust because their sense of smell is much stronger than our sense of smell. And so if he gets a routine where he goes outside and he smells like this healer I spoke with yesterday, she said he loves the smell of the outdoors. Can you take him in a cart maybe, and I said, yes, I actually have a bassinet where I put my 3 dogs and we walk around. And so I'm going to start doing that with a mask, of course. And it's been tough though, because he's very needy right now. He's in eat phase. So if you hear him barking, he whines and he barks, and that's, he's adjusting. If you went blind or if I went blind, we'd probably be whining and barking too for quite a while.
Oh yeah.
Right. Oh, that's the very special that you have that relationship with him, and that's awesome. I mean, the little dogs a lot of times can live to be 22, so I'm sure he'll adjust and have a lot of happy years ahead of him. And a lot of our listeners remember we've had Sally Jenkins, who's a pet communicator, on in the past, and we also have had Doris Muna, who was on with Holly Edwards, and she's a pet healer as well as a human healer. So very awesome. So let's get right into it. Jane, you have been a news anchor commentator on various major well-known networks, and now you're the founder and content editor of Jane Unchained. What drives you for this purpose, and what are you excited about with it right now?
Well, what drives me is to stop animal suffering. I mean, we all run around and saying we're animal lovers, and many, if not most, Americans have pets, and yet we're killing more animals than in any other time in human history. 80 billion animals a year, mostly for food. Of course, we also fight against unnecessary animal experimentation. All animal experimentation is unnecessary. But food is the primary, the biggest, in terms of the number of animals being killed, they're being killed for food. And it's killing us. I mean, we're in the middle of a zoonotic pandemic. Cabo agrees 100%.
Cabo agrees.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're in the middle of a zoonotic pandemic that jumped from animals to people. And remember, everybody's like, where did it start? How did it start? It was first cropped up amongst people who had visited a wet slaughter market in China.
Wow.
And then you have avian flu and bird flu. And I'll stay calm, because when I get agitated, he gets agitated. I can't get real angry, even though it's my favorite thing to do. Swine flu, African swine fever, all of these things are still a threat. And as horrible as this pandemic is, the next one could be even worse. We need to transition away from animal agriculture. We're also facing a climate crisis, which has some updates to that bio. Is that as part of Jane Unchained, we just did a documentary called Countdown to Year Zero, which is currently on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
wow.
Basically makes the case that we're going to have to transition to plant-based diet, all of us, by 2026, or we are going to face an ecological apocalypse. And after that, as an outgrowth of that documentary, excuse me, Angel, you're going to have to jump down for a second. Be calm, okay? As part of that documentary, we also, the star of it is a systems analyst engineer by the name of Dr. Silas Rao. He's Stanford educated. He worked in the tech industry for decades. He helped accelerate internet speeds. I believe he's a genius. He worked with Al Gore, but he split with Al Gore because Al Gore didn't want to talk about animal agriculture. And he has written a white paper. He's the star of Countdown to Year Zero, and I urge everybody, just watch it. It's not graphic, but it tells a story of how we have to transition to plant-based by 2026.
That's
wow.
quick.
Okay. And anyway, so as a result of the documentary and further work we did with him, he ended up writing a white paper. And the white paper states that animal agriculture is responsible for 87% of greenhouse gas emissions. Not the 14.5% or 18% or 30% or 51% that is quoted, because the numbers are all over the place depending on how you calculate it. And so, really, he's making a very powerful case that we have to transition to a plant-based world. That's what drives Jane Unchained. We have 70 volunteer contributors going live on Facebook. We also have TV shows, not just our documentary, but we have a new cooking show on Amazon Prime, New Day, New Chef. Check it out. It's super fun. New Day, New Chef. Every time we turn on the blender, we do the blender dance. And we got some new episodes coming out. We also work with Billie Eilish's mom, Maggie Baird, to do our season 2 support and feed, where during the pandemic, we had quite a few celebrities gather with us remotely. And then we watched them give money to vegan restaurants, and then the vegan restaurants would make the food. And then Maggie Baird, who's Billie Eilish and Phineas's mother, would distribute it to people who are hungry and first responders and folks who really need some nutritious food.
How special. Wow. That's a lot. You just have so many achievements that are changing the world. It's like, it's going to motivate so many people. I'm serious. Wow.
Everybody should do their thing. I always say it doesn't matter what you do, whatever you're good at, you can use it to help animals. If you're a violinist, we have a friend who's a vegan violinist, and she helps animals all the time. She's always donating her talent for fundraisers, galas, etc. It doesn't matter if you're an accountant, you can do pro bono work for a nonprofit. Doesn't matter what you are, an artist, you can do paintings that are one of the great painters. Her name escapes me at this moment, but she does the paintings upside down of wild animals, and then she flips them, and they're beautiful.
Wow.
She does that at galas. So whatever you do it and be part of this movement and go vegan. Obviously, that's the most important thing, is to get meat and dairy off your plate.
Yeah.
For your own health. Look at our pandemic. The people who are suffering the worst consequences, the most severe medical consequences, are people who have underlying conditions. And those underlying conditions are tied to their diets. And so this is an opportunity. In fact, today on Jane Unchained, I interviewed the U.S. head of Veganuary. 500,000 people signed up to do Veganuary this year. Huge skyrocketing growth. And a lot of them said it was the pandemic, that they want to get healthy.
Yeah.
They don't want to get sick and die.
Right. It's waking everybody up. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
I'm just really impressed. Like Kim said, so many accomplishments, and I think there's many years yet to come. That you're still young and you have so much more to do. I can see it. I can feel like
I know, right?
You're like thinking in
vibration.
This is not even enough. You have so much more plans. I'm reading you right now.
Oh, great! I like it. Yes. We're gonna go.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'll completely switch gears. This is one of my kind of like hobbies, a topic that I love and it's not like it's not a happy subject, but it's murder. And those books that you wrote, one of them was the Casey Anthony trials, a book based on that, and then the other, Jodi Arias trials. Very high profile.
Casey Anthony, but I did write about Jodi Arias.
Oh, okay.
I covered Casey Anthony.
Covered it.
That's what you did. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
And tell her about Lindy.
Who?
Lindy, our past guest.
Oh, tell her. Okay. Yeah, so, Lindy, we had a past guest on who is a good friend, but she's also the detective. She used to be an LAPD detective. Now she's much higher ranked. But she worked on many murder cases, and she came and interviewed on the show, and it was fascinating. And yeah, we have a great episode with her. But so this whole kind of genre, it's fascinating to me. But as far as you writing this book, what turned you on to writing the book? What did you do? What was your purpose in that, and what did you get out of that?
Well, I've written 4 books, and here's a funny little revelation. I'm actually not interested in murder. I'm an environmentalist. I'm interested in animal rights, stopping climate change, fighting to stop the destruction of the wetlands, those sort of things. But especially when I was younger, I had to make a living, and I was a reporter. And so I was a local news reporter. I went to NYU, then I graduated in 1977, and I worked in Fort Myers, Florida, Minneapolis, Minnesota, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and then I got a job in my hometown in New York, where I stayed for 8 years as a reporter anchor at WCBS TV. And while I had initially really wanted to end up in my hometown, after about 8 years of reporting on it, which is grueling in Manhattan, it's pretty grueling anywhere, but especially in Manhattan, I wanted out. And a good friend of mine had gotten a job here in LA, and he recommended me, and I got a job as a weekday anchor, and it was fabulous. I worked at KCAL. I worked on the Paramount Studios lot in Hollywood. I had a great time at KCAL. It was the most fun job I've ever had.
Nice.
So after about 12 years, that's a pretty good run for an anchor. They had a management change, and so I left. And then my friend Harvey Levin, who's now famous for TMZ, called me, and he said, I'm starting this show called Celebrity Justice, and I can't find any reporters. I said, what about me? I was at WCBS for like 5 minutes, but I was like, I'm sick of local news already.
Yeah.
And so when he called me, I said, yeah. And everybody said, you're crazy. That show's going to last 13 weeks, and then you're going to be branded as a tabloid reporter, and you'll never work again. I said, you know what? Then I'll become a real estate broker. I don't care. I'm tired of local news. I can't do it anymore. And so I started working for him, and that was very exciting job. And I ended up covering the Michael Jackson child molestation trial in Santa Maria. And I was there for a good 6 months covering that trial, which
Wow.
On Larry King Live, and he, of course, recently passed away. What a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was filling in for Nancy Grace. I was reporting on the trial for Nancy Grace, and then after the show ended, the trial ended, the show ended, and then I started filling in for Nancy Grace when she went on vacation. And then I got my own show. And so that was in 2008. And I did ask, of course, I was a budding animal activist. With every year that passed, I got more into it. I'm 25 years vegan. And then I really, it was Celebrity Justice that allowed me to start doing animal rights stories, because we wanted celebrities. And they hated us. We're a tabloid show. They literally would run away from us. But so many celebrities care deeply about animals that I work with PETA, and we actually lined up celebrities who would talk to us, even though their publicists were like, get away. And they were like, no, I need to talk about the whales. I need to talk about this, that, and the other. So when I got the job at CNN Headline News, I said, would you mind if I did a little animal segment once a week? And they said, no, we don't see a problem with that. And maybe they thought it was going to be pet adoption, but I was increasingly becoming an animal rights activist. The more I saw videos of, the horrible things they do to cows, pigs, chickens, turkeys, goats, lambs, and animals in laboratories. So I started doing hardcore animal activism, which to me is a blessing. I'll always be grateful. They never stopped. I mean, we had to talk about how graphic the footage could be, blah, 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 but they never said you can't do it anymore, which was really, I had 6 years of doing that, and I interviewed a lot of the top people in the movement. And so that was great. Then that show wrapped up after 6 years, which was a nice run for a national show. And so I asked one of the executives, I said, what do I do now? Because I was exactly 59 and a half at the time. And they said, well, obviously you're very passionate about animals. Why don't you just focus on that? And I thought, okay. So I started going to protests, because when you're a reporter, you can't go to protests. It's not allowed, really. You have to be objective. So one of the things I first noticed about the protests were, okay, it's really cold in New York. These people are half naked, protesting about something. They're shivering. Nobody's looking at them because it's so cold. They're rushing wherever they're going, and nobody's documenting any of it.
Yeah.
I said, bingo, this was way before Facebook Live. I said, I have my niche. So and my girlfriend at the time, Donna, said, well, you're unchained, Jane. And, meaning I could do whatever I wanted. But it was kind of a play on animals are changed, and also maternal values, because the entire animal agriculture industry is based on the violation of the sacred feminine, of the female reproductive system. They're not making love on these factory farms. All of these animals are raped. They are raped. And then, speak of crime, they abduct the babies from the mothers, and then they kill all three of them. The baby.
So there's murder right there. So that you focus on murder.
That is murder.
Exactly. It is animal murder.
Yeah, it's animal murder.
That's true.
Yeah. So anyway, I started Jane Unchained. I'll never forget one of the first stories I covered. 9 degrees in Brooklyn. There was a protest against Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus. 200 protesters were there, and they were shaking because it was so cold. And I had a little GoPro at the time before Facebook Live, and I started shooting this protest. And you know what? Even though that's not the reason Ringling Brothers went out of business, the good news is it's really thanks to PETA and all the other organizations, but primarily PETA. But Ringling's is gone. Ringling's is gone. So you do whatever you have to do with activism, whatever you think. Don't worry about the results. Just do it, do it, do it, do it, do it.
Yeah. I mean, I was even a PETA lettuce lady, so hey.
So good for you.
Yeah. You do what you can. What about your other book? One of your books was on your story with addiction.
Yes. I'm, knock on wood. Let's see if there's any wood over here. One day at a time, I'll be 26 years sober.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
My sobriety date is April Fool's Day, which is very appropriate because my specialty was making a fool of myself at parties. And, I was very lucky. I never got a DUI. I didn't lose the house, the car, the job, but every addict, when you hit bottom, you experience incomprehensible demoralization. And so I wrote a book about getting sober, and then after I got sober, and I didn't have alcohol to drown my feelings. I had to acknowledge myself and to others that I'm gay. So I came out, and then I also went vegan. And those are my three miracles, you know, coming out, getting sober. I wouldn't have done anything if I hadn't gotten sober. I wouldn't have come out, and I wouldn't have been an activist. I would still be at a bar, you know, talking to somebody, oh, I love animals. You know, what I did was once I got sober, they say in 12-step or sobriety, I should say, the only thing that has to change is everything. So all of a sudden, I had a lot of time that I used to spend going dancing and club hopping and just doing silly things, you know, mindless things. And I put it into animal activism. And it just shows you can change your reputation, because I had a pretty, I had a reputation as a lush, but now I'm Granola Jane, who's the animal activist. Only a few people really remember me from those days.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm a totally different person from those days. And but they say, you know, do not regret the past, because if you share your experience, it can help somebody else. So that's why I wrote the book.
How did it change your perspective on other people's now, currently, even, and even then with mental health? We do a lot with mental health awareness. We work with the Imperfectly Perfect campaign, which is a global campaign to help reduce the stigma around mental health issues. So I know going through something like that and putting it out to the public really helps you be an example for others struggling with anything related to addiction or mental health.
Well, I don't like to commingle the two. I'm not mentally ill.
I look at it like it just affects, like everything affects your mental health. Stress affects our mental health. Well, getting anxiety about the animals affects our mental health. That's all I'm saying with that.
No, I understand. I just think it's important to distinguish between those two. You know? Because, but I will say that there's a lot of cliches in sobriety, and the reason is that they're very true. And one thing that we always say is insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so I think that, honestly, I think that, you know, mental illness is something where first, just like alcoholism, you have to acknowledge you have a problem. The first step toward solving any problem is acknowledging you have a problem. And that's the hardest part, because there's pride involved. Oh, I don't want to admit that I've got this problem, right? But frankly, the sooner you admit it, the sooner you can get over it. I mean, if I could go back, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but if I could have gotten sober at 18, I would have much preferred that. However, my journey is my journey, and I shared it with other people.
There's a lot of people that don't want to get over it, though, because they don't want to feel.
Yeah.
Easier to escape it, and I'm sure that's a part of what kept you going for a while.
Exactly. I said I'm gay, and I didn't want to deal with that, you know? Right. And what's really interesting is once I got sober, I just couldn't, there was just no way I could hide from it.
Right. You became your authentic self.
A Chardonnay, you know, would be like, I could, So that's sobriety. You have to sit through your feelings and realize that, you know, your negative feelings don't last forever. A very wise person said, just sit through the feelings. They don't last forever. Sometimes it's 20 minutes or 45 minutes, and then you get to the other side. If you don't sit through them, they just keep coming back over and over again.
Oh, yeah. Because they stay inside your body.
Yeah.
And you'll repeat it.
Good point. Very good point. Yes.
Well, okay. My next question was going to be talk about your personal life a little bit more so people can get to know you. But you just let it all out. So, is there anything else you want to share around that? How was your childhood?
Interesting childhood. Very interesting. I would say it's unusual. I'm sure everybody feels their childhood was unusual. But I was born and raised in Manhattan. My mom was from Puerto Rico. She was born in 1916. And actually, she was the original animal activist. She had a pig. She thought that pig was her friend. I know, Cabo. I like this story, too.
He agrees.
That pig was her friend. I'm going to pick my dog up. That pig was her friend. And she came home from school one day and the pig had been slaughtered for food and she fainted. She woke up, she shunned meat from that point on. And she had a very interesting life story. She came to New York by herself on a boat at the age of 12 at the height of the Great Depression. And at the start of the Great Depression, she formed a very successful dance troupe called Anita Velez Dancers. And she actually did a little documentary on her called Anita Velez Dancing Through Life. And she played a lot of the hotels in the Caribbean, the United States, and Canada. And her big moment was playing the Palace Theater. She was the last of the vaudeville.
For more information on Eden, go to edensustin.com. For more information on Kim, go to kimlifecoach.com. Make sure to follow them on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Talk Purpose and Truth Podcast. If you loved this episode, you'll love every episode. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss anything. Thank you for listening.